Do you ever wonder how the best landlords get the most money when renting out their student housing? How do landlords in places like College Station, home of Texas A&M, get the most rent when renting out to college kids? Well, I'm going to give you my insider secrets, my top tips to maximizing your rental income when you own a rental property close to a college campus, just like here in Aggieland. Guys, stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. When it comes to student rentals, pre-leasing is everything. The turn season is critical. Guarantors are a must, and helicopter parents are a pain in the. How do I know all this? Well, I own and manage 26 units here in Bryan and College Station, all relatively close to Texas A&M University. Before that, I managed over 150 units all here in town, so I've rented to one or two college students in my day, and I've learned quite a few things, and that's exactly what I'm going to share with you. In order to maximize your rent, you need to understand the student leasing calendar. The seasons of a student renter near a college campus is dictated and driven by the large student apartment complexes. These giant 30-story apartment buildings stuffed with college kids. Those apartment complexes, those property managers require the students to give renewal notices 6 months out. In fact, 9 months out, that's right, in October, they will be sending out renewal opportunities to those students. That's for a lease that doesn't end until June or July. Because of course, most, if not all, college students will have their leases end in June and July during the summer months when they're not attending school. So what does that mean for you, the landlord? Well, you better take advantage of that same seasonality, because those students that were living or are thinking about living in those apartment complexes will be looking in December, January, February, and March for a place to live. That's right. By the end of March, the demand on student housing has already dropped off significantly, meaning those students have already locked in where they're going to live for those leases that begin in July. So what do I recommend? The best way to combat this is to make sure that your lease has a pre-lease or a renewal notice requirement 4 months before the lease end date. I always recommend that your leases end in June or July, so that means that your renewal notice will be due sometime in February. This way that you can start pre-leasing in February and March to make sure you don't miss the high demand months to lock in those students at the highest rates possible. Guys, if you have a student rental and it's already pushing into May, you're probably behind the curve. And quite honestly, if you wait till June or July, you have already missed the mark. Your number 2 tip is to dial in your turns. Normally, in a normal town, turn's not a big deal. You get your handyman over there, you do some paint, you do some flooring, you get the next tenants moved in. But here in a college town like Bryan and College Station, we have 70,000 students, and the majority of them are moving in June and July. Imagine the frenzy of all of those turns happening in one town. You can probably guess it. It's hard to get contractors, plumbers, HVAC, handymen, flooring companies to your property. So if you wait until the property's vacant to come up with a game plan, you already shot yourself in the foot. You're going to go over budget and over timeline. And we all know that vacancies are expensive and turns are expensive. So let's minimize that by coming up with a plan before the turn. Walk the property at least 2 to 4 weeks before the tenants move out. And then have a game plan already set up. Are you replacing floors? Are you doing a partial paint or a full paint? Are you replacing countertops? Are you making any upgrades or major repairs to the property? Have that planned out. Have the contractors lined up 2 weeks in advance so that when that property becomes vacant, you're ready to have a quick and efficient turn, minimizing your largest expense. All right, this one I get a lot. But Greg, I don't want to rent to college kids because they're going to destroy my property. And well, you're not wrong. There is a higher risk that these college kids are going to be more rough on your properties. The truth is, all they want to do is party and procreate. They don't care about your investment property. But luckily, tip number 3 is to get a freaking guarantor, get a cosigner, get the parents involved in the process. See, the good news is, while Johnny wants to go party, His mommy wants to protect her credit score. Mom and dad at Texas A&M on average make $130,000 a year, and a bunch make way more than that. That means they make excellent guarantors. They're going to make sure you get paid every single month. They're going to make sure that if there's any damages, those damages are covered. They are signing on the lease as guarantors, therefore they're financially responsible for the rent and any damages caused, same as their students who are actually living in the property. Now, some tips on that is I recommend you screen guarantors the same way you screen tenants, but with more strict requirements. Meaning if I require a 600 credit score for a tenant, the guarantor has to have a 700 credit score. If I require 3 times 1 month's rent and income for a tenant, a parent has to have 4 times 1 month's rent and income. You see, that's how you protect your downside when renting out these crazy college kids. Tip number 5 will save you a lot of headache. And this is how to avoid and deal with the helicopter parent. The helicopter parent is the one that can't let go of control of little Johnny or little Susie, even though they moved all the way across the country to get away from you, Mom, but you just won't let me live my life. And that becomes your problem as the landlord because they're going to try to micromanage everything you do. Ask me how I know. So how do you avoid or deal with helicopter parents? For one, step 1, identify said helicopter parent. Red flag is if the parent attends the showing with their son or daughter, or God forbid, on behalf of the son or daughter, they ask a million questions and they just have that vibe of, your place isn't nice enough for Susie. That means that mom is a helicopter parent. She's gonna be a huge pain in your backside. Tip 2 for dealing with helicopter parents is set expectations up front. I recommend this policy. The only people allowed to communicate maintenance requests or allow access entry to my property are the tenants currently occupying the property. That means the students, not the guarantors. Do not take maintenance requests from the parents. Guys, they'll become middleman. It'll be wrong. The maintenance request will be delayed. The communication will be crappy. It'll be harder to get your contractors in that property to fix your own property because mom and dad will be middleman and they'll muck everything up. Avoid or minimize having to deal with the helicopter parents, and renting to students will get way easier. You're going to have a renewal requirement for your tenants 4 months before the lease end date. This allows you to pre-lease a vacancy in February and March so that you have the highest demand from the student renters. 2, July and June are crazy times in a college town when it comes to turning properties, so you're going to have a plan before that vacancy ever hits. Number 3, you're going to get guarantors to make sure that you hedge the downside of renting to wild, crazy college kids that just want to party and procreate. And number 5, you're going to minimize or avoid the headache from helicopter parents. Guys, that is how you maximize your ROI when running a student rental. If you want to buy your first or next student rental property here in Bryan-College Station, I'd love to help you out. All my contact information is in the description below. And as always, guys, I'll have a new video next week. Until then, take it easy.